Hello and welcome to Knowledge Trains. It is the first day of your work and your manager tapped in your shoulder and said, "Hey, welcome. I'm really happy that you are here and I have some work for you." Your manager mentioned that they are trying to implement Exchange Server 2016 and they want you to help them buying a perfect server. He also mentioned that it should meet their requirements and should be affordable. In this video, I'll show you how can you choose a perfect server based on the scenario, and then you also have to consider that when purchasing server there are various factors that you may want to consider. For example, cost. If your manager says we are looking for something around $4,000, and then there are like operating system requirements. So if you're installing server 2019, the server 2019 will have its own system requirement, as well as if you're installing an application which is Exchange server here, will have their own hardware requirements. After that, the size of a server you're buying, like what shape of a server you need. Are you gonna have a server that is going to be mounted in a rack, or it is going to be simple server like a desktop shape? So those are the things that you will be considering. I will be demonstrating how to purchase a server for your exchange running on server 2019, and your homework is to find a perfect HP server for file server services and share the results with me. So we will be looking at Dell vendor, and then you will be looking at HP. So the very first thing that I will be looking in here is the requirements. So it is always a good idea that when you choose or you are planning to buy a server, you have a Excel spreadsheet and then you put your comparisons in there and then do your calculation. So as you can see here, I have Windows Server 2019 system requirement, and then in here, if you read throughout this document, you can see that processor, RAM, storage, and then network. So if I look into the processor, the requirement is 1.4 gigahertz and it should be 64-bit processor. So if you are buying a 32-bit processor, it's not gonna work. And then you can see that it should be compatible with x64 instruction set, and there are some other details written in there. And 2 GB RAM is the recommended if you're using a graphic user interface, meaning it's not a core edition, which is command line. So most of the time we always use the graphic user interface, so I will go with 2 GB as minimum. And then storage controller, you can see that the minimum space is 32 GB, and then the adapter should at least be gigabit throughput. So most of the modern servers that you buy, they actually comes with gigabit port, so that should not be a problem, and it should be compliant by PCI Express. So that is the requirement for your server operating system. And I will just write all these specifications down, and then based on that I'll do my calculation. Um, Another thing is Exchange Server 2016. You can see that Exchange Server 2016 have the requirement of Server 2012 standard or above. And then when it comes to memory, you can see that if you're using the server as a mailbox role and then a transport role, both of them installed together in one server, it is 8 plus 4, 12. So basically what I do is I always go with maximum. So this is the minimum. What I will do is I will double it. 8 plus 8, 16. 4 plus 4, 8. So total like 16 plus 8, the 30, 16 plus 8 will be 24. So 24 GB, and then for my server is 2 GB, 25, 26, and then so I will say the minimum that you will go with is 32 for your server. If you can make it 64 GB, that is the best way to have a better performance, because always double the hardware requirements, like double the memory, and make sure that the processor is like little higher, because the servers like Exchange server, they require to be or I can say they consume more processor RAM, because they are providing services to your users all the time. And then the very last thing that you will do is, once you have your requirements gathered, like 64 GB of RAM, and then like uh, the processor requirement, the last thing that you will do is you will actually go and start selecting the server for you. And you can also you can see that it requires that it should be NTFS. RAID 1 is recommended. And if you don't know REFS, RAID, we will be looking into it a little bit on the storage side. But if you want to have more knowledge on the hardware, go with A plus certification or A plus hardware. Even if you're not going with the certification, it will give you more and more knowledge on different terminologies that we use on a daily basis. So when I go to the Dell website, you can see I can click on products. I am not buying laptops, so basically I look into servers and storage, and then once I click here, you can see that I do have Dell EMC servers, storage, and networking in here. As we mentioned, different sizes and shapes. So we are going to install it in a rack. So I can click on rack. So this is the different shapes that you are getting in here. And then one socket, two socket, four socket, you can see they're like doubled, like 1U, 2U, 4U. This is how much space it will be consuming, and they are designed for like high processing, maximum performance, and it will meet the demand. So it says 558 and then 979. So I'll go with two socket, and I'll click there, and then we will have to add more and more hardware. So this is a starting price, doesn't mean that you will get what you need. So there are different models of the servers. You can see that these are different models that you can click on, and then it will uh, give you the specifications on that. And then once you click there, you can see that we have text specifications, and then you can customize that too. And memory, you can see that this is how much it supports. Like this is up to, meaning the maximum memory that it can support. And then RAM, you can see that different RAM slots we got in here. And we do have some other like ports, like how many ports you need. This is another important thing. And if you come down, you can see different storage options in here, like 112 TB. So basically, we are getting a lot of customizations in here. We can upgrade, and we can add more and more things in here. If you click on product details, you can see that it will show you different product details in here. And then solution and services, it will just give you some details on how can you get support. So the best thing that I always do is I always click here, and then I either call them or I either chat with them, and then I tell them, hey, I am looking for example, for Dell R740, and then I'm looking for this much of a specification. Can I get a code and how much it's gonna cost? So they can answer by chat, or you can give them a call, and then they will actually reply back, and then that's how you can get your quotation. And very good thing is that you can give them your requirement, and then they all tell them that, hey, my budget is 4,000, and this is what I'm looking for, and if you can help me find a server. So that's how you can actually get a quotation, and you can buy a perfect server. But the main important thing is that you always look into system requirements, make sure that it is going to fit your need. And then when I say double the hardware, what I mean in here is that you will not run into problems in future, so you can basically scale up in future, meaning if you have more and more users, more and more traffic and use of that server, you will not have any issues. So your homework is to find me a perfect server for file server services, but it should be a HP server, and the price that I'm going to give you is 3,000 only.